Welcome back to Liars and Lovers, the podcast where we dig beneath the surface of stories that people tell about life, love, and everything in between. Today's guests have built an audience by tackling one of the biggest taboos with honesty, expertise, and a surprising amount of humor. They're the mother-daughter duo behind Mother Knows Death, where forensic pathology meets family conversation. Together, they break down true crime headlines, medical mysteries, and the realities of death in a way that's educational, compassionate, and incredibly entertaining. Nicole Angemi is a forensic pathologist who spent years of uncovering the truth behind how people die. Her daughter, Maria Kane, brings the curiosity, questions, and perspective that make every episode feel like you're sitting in on a conversation with family. And that's if your family happens to know everything about autopsies and anatomy. Today, we're talking about what it's like to work together as a mother and daughter, how spending your life studying death changes the way that you think about love and relationships, the biggest misconceptions people have about forensic pathology, and why understanding mortality can actually help us live more fully. So whether you're a true crime fan, fascinated by science, or just curious about how a mother and daughter turned one of the toughest subjects into one of the most engaging podcasts around, you're in for a great conversation. Please welcome Nicole Angemi and Maria Kane from Mother Knows Death. Hey, ladies.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you guys?
Thanks for having us today.
No, thank
what
you.
What an intro. Thank you.
I kind of want to give everyone at the beginning of each episode a good kind of well-rounded understanding of who the guests are that I'm going to be working with. And I definitely want to plug the podcast for you guys as much as possible because I appreciate you have crazier schedules than me between podcast recording and both of you now being mothers,
Yes.
juggling now grandchildren also. So it's just a little crazy. So again, I really appreciate both of you being here.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So I kind of want to just jump into everything. What's something that you guys have learned about each other since you started working together?
We operate on completely different waves. So I am very A-type. I'm very set to a schedule. I like to, have routine down. I operate via spreadsheets. And she is very different than that. But somehow it comes together and works out pretty well.
Awesome. I relate to your mother-daughter because I actually started my career working with my dad. And I always joke with my dad, I'm like, I'm the son you always wanted, even though I have two brothers. But I get the family dynamic and I understand that there's sometimes a balance, and a fight that I always dealt with internally is at what point am I his employee and what point am I his daughter ultimately? Because there's definitely like a weird mix of who's the boss, who's not the boss. And I can't really go and use the argument, well, you're not my dad, because he is. Do you guys kind of have the same argument that I have sometimes internally of like, where do you separate the whole mom and daughter from co-hosts?
I don't know that we really do.
Okay.
I think what you see is what you get with us.
Yeah.
This is kind of how we are. I mean, sometimes we do get negative reviews that say that you guys are fighting a lot or something like that, but we just act like we always do. And I mean, even though we're equal partners on the podcast, I'm still her mom. So I'm always going to talk to her like she's my daughter, even though she's 30 some years old, but I don't know. What do you think, Ray?
I mean, we start every live show we do with an opening about who we are, just in case somebody's brought along somebody that's never heard us. And we always say we're not fighting, we're just Italian. Because I think that sometimes, especially being from the Philadelphia area, the way in which we talk to each other casually can come across as a little aggressive, but that's just the nature of living in this area.
Oh, no, I get that because I'm taking your relatability from Philly and I'm applying it to my New York mentality. We all know that Philly and New York can definitely hold their own in a conversation. What is the funniest disagreement that you guys probably have had pertaining to an episode?
I would say behind the scenes, we joked on an episode that I had a basic bitch car, and it comes up a lot because somebody got in the wrong car one day, which is the story. that our listeners absolutely love.
You got
and so our argument is I'm of the mindset that you have such a basic bitch car. Every single person has this car. At the time, she had this gray mid-size SUV that every single person in the world has. So when I go out to the parking lot, where were we at? Hobby Lobby or something?
Yes.
We're at the craft store and we go out to the parking lot and there's 20 cars that look exactly the same. So of course I got in the wrong car because I couldn't tell.
But the old woman's jacket on the passenger seat didn't tip you off that you were in the wrong vehicle.
I don't know. They all look the same to me.
That's amazing.
It's something I love bringing up often. We actually talked about it on an episode this week because I was trying to get her to do some dumb TikTok trend talking about it. But it's a story that we told on one episode 2 years ago, and our listeners absolutely love it. It comes up so often, and that's a disagreement in real life. But as far as what pertains to work, I don't think we have many disagreements. Mostly, I would say it's just depending on what kind of content we want to cover. But it's not even that big of a deal. It's just one of us throwing out an idea and the other being like, I don't think it's a good time to do that right now, or just, I'm not interested. We've covered too many cases along that same subject line. We like to try to keep it to more unique cases.
Okay. I could definitely appreciate that. And I feel like unique also goes with the idea that sometimes some of those unique cases also aren't getting the coverage that they rightfully do deserve. So I appreciate you guys choosing those unique cases and those kind of out of the box to eventually possibly resurface some of those cold case investigations that don't get the acknowledgement they do. Now, do you think that the both of you could switch shoes for a week?
Well,
that was a quick no.
I had to when she was having my grandson, and it was awful. Actually, I don't like anything that has to do with tech or anything that has to do with organization, or like she was saying, she's spreadsheets, schedules, and I'm opposite. So I guess it's good that she is the way she is because she made me this like 20-page Word document of every single thing I need to do. But just recording the episodes by myself, I found to be very difficult because I didn't have anyone to talk to, and it's kind of boring. Like I'm not a stand-up comic that's just whatever, you know. And just afterwards of sending our episodes and editing and all this kind of stuff is not my thing at all.
So you're just happy to stay in your own shoes and stay in your lane, but that's what makes a great partnership, because whatever you can't do, she can handle, and vice versa. So that definitely is a good balance.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of, obviously, mother knows death, the first word mother, but now it's mothers. Nicole, what parenting lesson are you most proud of passing on and that you've exhibited so far in Maria?
I was actually talking about this with my husband too, because I'm a parent that, of course, I worry about stuff, especially because of all the stories that we cover on the news and everything. But I was very scared that Maria was going to turn into one of these annoying moms that, you can't come over our house for 2 months because of the baby's immune system. And just, you can't hold the baby. You can't do this. You can't put pictures of the baby online. I don't want anybody to see his face, all this stuff. So, and she's not. And I'm like, thank God that rubbed off on her, that she's not like a crazy person like that.
Thanks.
And Maria, what's one piece of advice that you think that you've acquired from your mom over the course of the years that didn't make sense up until now that you're finally a mom?
I mean, my whole life, I feel like we've had this attitude of like, don't take anybody's crap, right? Like, don't let people walk all over you. And I have a hard time with that. I'm very non-confrontational, and I'll often find myself in situations I don't want to be in just because I don't want to speak up. Like the type of person that if I get the completely wrong meal or like a bug in my food at a restaurant, I won't say anything.
Really? Even a bug?
Yeah. I mean, I just have a really hard time with it. So now that I'm a mom, however, I feel like that is finally kicking in. Like when it comes to my son and anything pertaining to him, I have no problem speaking my mind. I actually feel this, like that's completely gone away in my body, that I have a hard time speaking up for things that I don't want to do anymore.
Okay. I could definitely see that happening. Do you think that because you guys obviously cover death as a common theme in your episodes, Do you think that because of all of the conversations that you're having about it, it's affected either positively or negatively, like relationships you may have with either people or how you meet people and things like that?
For sure. I mean, since I've been doing this career now more than half of my life, um, it definitely makes me not want to waste time with people that, if someone's in my life that's not working out, I have no problem cutting people out of my life like that.
Yeah.
So for sure. But like negatively, I would say, just because the people that I want to spend time with are, I want it to be quality time. I don't want to waste time on nonsense. Um, but negatively, of course, I mean, it's hard to not talk about all these horrible things that happen every day and not always wonder every single time you step your foot out the door that something's going to happen to one of your kids.
Yeah. I would think that because of your career, there's so many misconceptions. And I think a lot of the time when I'm having conversations and I've spoken with people either on other podcasts or over at CrimeCon or other true crime events, I think there's a big misunderstanding pertaining to pathology versus like autopsies, and different realms of what pathology actually entails. Can you just go a little bit into more specifically regarding what your role is as a pathologist?
So I'm actually not a pathologist. I'm a PA.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I specialize in autopsy, but also surgical pathology. So that's dissecting organs that come down from surgery. A lot of people aren't familiar with my field, although everyone has probably had something of theirs sent to pathology at some point. So whenever anyone, has breast cancer and gets their breast a mastectomy and their breast removed, it would come to someone like me who would dissect it and look for the tumor and measure it. And then we help work with the pathologist and also with the surgeons to stage patients. And then we do autopsies of when people die. Mainly my expertise is in natural medicine, in pathology or natural disease. But part of my training also is in forensics. So that's doing anything that involves natural disease, but usually it's accidents, homicides, suicides, and things like that. So I was able to have a lot of training in autopsy with that as well.
Wow. That is a lot of just being able to give the family the answer that they're looking for, or even when it comes down to a woman going ahead and having breast cancer, being able to go ahead and give them the answers that they're looking for pertaining to the results that ultimately could be life changing. Isn't I personally am in awe and very much appreciative of the work that you do, because it comes down to individuals like you that are going to give the answers, because ultimately people are waiting at the fork in the road. Is it going to be left? Is it going to be right? And because of your skill set, you're going to be able to provide everyone else the information that they need to go ahead and best support their patients. So thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a lot different. It's a lot different of a field than anyone else that works in the hospital, because we're not dealing with people who are alive,
Yeah.
or even people in general. It's like their body parts. So that part is awesome for me because I don't want to deal with people
No, of course.
like
It's a
that.
hard conversation to have. Once you put a face and a person and a pulse behind the organ per se, it takes away, I don't know how to kind of explain it. It depersonalize it, which is so much makes it easier for you to do your job.
Yeah, 100%. Because most of the time it's just like we get a name and an age, and sometimes that even bothers you if you just see a person's age and they have something completely terrible. But yeah, we don't know what they look like. We don't know their family situation, so we don't have that attachment of, we could stay totally science brained and just do our job and not have any kind of emotional attachment to it.
Do you think that there's one large misconception that's bigger than the others pertaining to the work that you do?
A lot. I mean, just in medicine and in forensics in general, I see that it's portrayed on TV as just getting answers very quickly. That's why whenever anyone dies here and you don't, get an answer right away because you're waiting on toxicology or something like that, I mean, I know that in some episodes of these shows that this all happens within a 24-hour period, but in the real world, it takes months sometimes.
That actually transitions into my next question for you. Do you think that there's some sort of like medical myth that's out there pertaining to the work that you do that you just want to like shut that shit down?
I mean, it's just that's pretty much in general that just because we have all these things at our fingertips to be able to do the diagnosis, it's we still sometimes we just don't know still. Um, even with patients that are still alive that are waiting, some people get really weird tumors, and then we look at it and we don't know what it is, and then we have to do additional testing. And sometimes we still don't know what it is, and then we have to call for a consult to a specialist in the country and send their slides there. And sometimes those people have ideas, but they still don't even know what's happening. So it's just we're not we're all human. We're not superhuman people with powers, and there's only so much that you can do sometimes. It's the same when people die. Sometimes you open them up and you could clearly see what killed them, and then other times it's kind of like, I don't really know. And in all of my time doing autopsy, because I did talk to the patients' families a lot because they were the ones that were requesting to have the autopsies done. People have unrealistic expectations sometimes of what they can get. They might have a family member that was in the hospital and then all of a sudden they died and they request an autopsy and they just say comments like, "Oh, I wanted to see if they gave him the wrong medications." And I'm like, that's not anything I can figure out for you.
Yeah.
There's just like certain things like that I feel like on TV, if you watch it, you would think that that's what they do, but that's not the case. And we have to test for specific things. We don't, I want to know if they poisoned or this or that. And it's just like, unless if that's what is suspicious, you're not really going to look into certain things like that.
I guess putting myself in their shoes, asking you these questions, I would think from the way that they're being posed to you that it's almost like they're looking for an excuse or someone to blame instead of natural causes, possibly.
Well, and I mean, that's normal human nature, right? We see that all the time, even when actors die and things like this. I'm writing a celebrity death book right now, which I submitted my first draft already. So it'll be coming out next summer. But it's just a common theme when people die, everyone wants to deny it. And I mean, that's why the celebrity is such a good topic, because every celebrity has some kind of scandal. It can't be what we were actually presented,
Yeah.
And that's a normal reaction to death, I think. You know how they always say that there's stages of death and one of them is denial. You see the denial a lot. Like I've had people request an autopsy and just try to talk to their family members to see exactly what they're looking for. And, it'll be like, "Oh, my brother had HIV and he had this really terrible infection and he ended up dying. And I just want to see if the doctors did something to cause him to die." And sometimes when you hear people say stuff out loud, it's like, okay, they're not really at terms right now of what this is and what happened to their loved one and that this was going to happen. There's just a lot of denial. And also I find that there's a lot of doctors that don't communicate with their patients or their patients' families. So they really don't really have an idea of what's going on. It's a combination of both things.
Now, just flipping over to your podcast, Mother Knows Death, is there a topic or a sensitive subject, kind of maybe even a brick wall of a topic that you guys like agreed on from the start of like, you know what, we're never going to go down this road?
We really cover everything, but we do scale it back on a lot of cases with children just because they're so hard to digest.
Oh, yeah.
Especially as a new mom, it's like now that, I always before could see why the cases were upsetting, but now that I have a baby at home, it just makes it even worse. But we really do try to cover everything because those cases can't be ignored.
I agree with you pertaining to the cases involving children, because I know for me, even just as a polygraph examiner and an investigator, I'll get a case across my desk and it's involving like the death of a child, and I'm just going ahead and processing. And that was actually the first polygraph that I ever did. And thankfully, I had my dad with there. He was there with me during the interview. And I remember a couple of times, typically we'll go ahead and give the examinee a break. Like I was telling them, and I was like, oh, I need to use the restroom, or I need a glass of water, because I was trying to process, especially talk about ripping off the Band-Aid of all polygraph types of tests to go ahead and do for the first one. I felt like I was thrown into the deep end, but I know the relationship of having with my father, he was more so at that point of like, I'm going to walk you through this. I'd rather be in the room with you right now to help you process what you're going to be hearing and dealing with versus doing it alone and then you not knowing what to do afterwards. Because a lot of it more was talking about addressing the emotions of how I was feeling, knowing that I was hearing cases like this. So I wholeheartedly agree with you that the case, they're difficult to speak about, but definitely trying to do it more so with ease and care and respect, ultimate. And it's not something that's comfortable being talked about, especially being heard. But the cases, like you said, they do need the attention. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm sorry, I'm just fluttering over my words because I feel like I'm having PTSD going back to like thinking about that first day and everything else. So I apologize if I seem a little floozy right now. But speaking of cases that you guys have covered, what was the most unexpected response that you guys had ever gotten from a listener pertaining to a case that you had done?
I think that sometimes people go with what they see online and aren't really willing to look at a case themselves and form their own opinion. So I feel like sometimes unexpected responses we get are criticisms from people when we're pointing out certain details that not everybody else will. Specifically, when we've covered the Ellen Greenberg case in particular,
yeah,
we talk a lot about what was going on behind the scenes, and we're seeing that with the Lindsay Clancy trial right now. So like nobody's talking about in the Ellen Greenberg case that she was on and off of a bunch of medications. She was going to a therapist. She was 30 years old and engaged, telling her parents she wanted to move back in. She was just having really weird behavior, but nobody wants to talk about that because it doesn't line up with the murder.
exactly.
So when we cover things like that, and I'm not even saying that, her fiance maybe didn't kill her or whatever. I'm not saying it either way. I'm just saying like we can't ignore these major things that were going on in her life because they could be really important. But I feel like when we cover things like that, that's when we end up getting criticized.
It's very much the court of public opinion. And when I feel that in true crime as a whole, individuals and listeners or fans of true crime, and I hate to call it fans because it's like the idolization and creating such an emphasis and the glorifying of victims sometimes because it's not held appropriately in certain venues. But I feel like that they hear only the initial case and they don't go down the rabbit hole and they don't find out those factors such as what you were discussing with regards to Ellen's case. And all of those manic behaviors are a roller coaster, especially when you're medicated versus unmedicated. And I feel that I guess with regards to the media, they don't want to go ahead and present that information because they don't want to go ahead and shine kind of like a negative light on the victim, possibly maybe because of re-victimization of the family members addressing things that are not meant out to be there in the public. But that does play a role in the entire case itself. So as investigators, they can't pick and choose what they want to talk about. They can't pick and choose only the good versus the bad. And I agree with you. It's wholeheartedly part of the conversation that needs to be had.
Totally. And I'm also firmly in the mindset of just because this is not pertaining to Ellen Greenberg, I'm just speaking on this generally.
Yeah.
If somebody dies and they were a terrible person, we don't need to act like they were the greatest person that ever lived.
Yeah.
And I have no problem talking about that. And I think that's some criticism we face too, because just because somebody's dead doesn't mean they're great. And I'm not going to sit here and act like somebody was amazing just because they died all of a sudden. Like, I feel bad for their family that they died and everything, but some people are just bad people and they happen to die.
There's a Rolodex of people in my head right now that are coming up. But no, it's so funny you bring that up because I'm thinking of all of these like obituaries that I've read over the course of the years pertaining to even like some serial killers. And everyone's like, oh, he was such a good boy. And I'm like, no, clearly it was not a good boy. Maybe
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
teacher, like I'm just, it blows my mind sometimes. Um, Nicole, what episode are you most proud of that you guys have done so far?
I think that for us, the hardest episodes for us to do are the ones that we have to do live.
Okay.
Because it's just difficult to do. So like our Crime Con episodes, I would say, just getting on stage with, because I guess when we're recording by ourselves, we don't have an audience that's reacting to us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we're sitting there on stage, and if we're laughing about something, I mean, you've been on stage before. It's
Yeah.
it's just very awkward. For me, it's something that I really don't like, and I'm never going to get used to, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, and just trying to stay in the same zone, because you can get distracted, like hearing feedback and things like that. Um, so that's a challenge for us, as far as technically a challenge. And the other episodes, I mean, we've got to interview some really great people that are, I mean, most of them, that are in our world, but Cheryl McCollum, Joseph Scott Morgan, all that. So and just being able to hear their perspectives on this whole entire field too is just really awesome.
We have a
Yeah, I
pretty
think-
interesting world. Like if we,
Yeah.
like going through our phones, some of our friends, I still I still go through my phone sometimes. I'm like, holy crap, I have this person's phone number.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, I think we've done interviews with people too that are in really niche professions in the world of death and investigation. And I think, I've always been interested in this since being a child and inappropriately watching Forensic Files as a little kid. But I never wanted to deal with blood hands on directly, or do crime scene investigation, or work in the hospital or lab. So I feel like if today I was in high school and I knew all these other specific fields you could go into and work, but not have to deal with the gruesome nature of it, in particular, like genetic genealogy, for example, is my dream job outside of this.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have that opportunity. So I think we've tried to highlight other jobs you can do in this field to let the younger listeners, or people maybe my age or older that want to change their career path, that there's other options out there that you could be involved in.
Now, just transitioning over, because obviously the show is called Liars and Lovers. What do you guys think that the biggest lie is that people believe about death?
I would just say ghosts.
Cardiac arrest is the cause of death.
Cardiac arrest is the cause of death, and ghost is my big one. I've had people over the years try to say like, oh, are these spirits around you and this and that. And I remember there was this guy that was working at the hospital with us. He was like a ghost hunter or something. And he came I was working with one of my mentors at the time, who was, you know, at least 40 years my senior, had done thousands of more autopsies that I've ever done. And this guy comes in and he's telling us that there's all these ghosts around us. And we're just like, get out of here, dude. Like, we never saw anything like that before. So, yeah, that's mine. And yeah, like cardiac arrest. Like, I want to have a conversation with the people that write news articles, between writing that, oh, Michael Jackson died from cardiac arrest, and what else do they put all the time? They always, whenever someone got stabbed, they always say it's a laceration, and it drives me nuts too. So,
and how does that make you feel? Oh, the blunt force injury is huge.
Yeah.
Well, they just don't use the words correctly, and it just drives me nuts. Like, a laceration isn't caused by a sharp weapon, but they use it all the time, so stuff like that.
Well, maybe another book concept could be media training and like verbiage and who knows what else, or maybe like another podcast on just how to train the media on how to approach different things, and because ultimately you're right. Blunt force trauma is so completely vague. Cardiac arrest is vague. That's not the actual cause. I mean, that's the behavior that led to something else.
Yeah. I mean, that and it's not just to the media. I mean, like, do you know how many times I've had to call physicians and tell them, like, you can't put cardiac arrest on this person's death certificate? It's just it's just like a hard concept to teach people, I guess.
Yeah. Um, what is the greatest act of love that you guys have ever witnessed? Because you guys deal with so much death and horrible, horrible cases, and obviously, Nicole, your own personal experiences. So to kind of circumvent that and kind of do the 180, what's the most greatest um act of love that you guys have ever witnessed or experienced?
Recently we're talking all the time about like horrible, horrible cases. So like recently in the last week or two, we've had a lot of stories we've covered in the news and from listeners about babies abandoned in porta potties. Like so awful, right?
Yeah.
So we had this story a couple months ago that a baby was put in one of those safe haven boxes at a firehouse, and a fireman that was struggling to conceive actually adopted that baby. I cried
Oh.
so bad. So things like that are, we don't always we more often than not, 98% of the time have the most horrific things going on, but one time sometimes a story like that will slip in and then I'm emotional, so I'll cry and cry
Yeah.
and cry about how awesome that is that it just like kind of worked out in that way for that person and somebody did that.
Okay, you're pulling on my heartstrings right now, like I'm processing because it's just to that for that box, because those boxes are not in every single firehouse. It is
No.
an organization that goes ahead and resources are pooled, finances, things like that, and they're installed at the preference of the fire department agency. So it's like that department reached out to this company, had it installed, and by the grace of God, I'll call it, that child turned up on their doorstep. And
Yeah,
now,
it's just it is a really good story.
ah, that is, yeah. Um,
I would say more recently too.
yeah.
And I mean, like I think about this often, but just today I was thinking about this specific question. Um, the Lindsay Clancy trial that's happening right now.
Hmm.
She's the mom who was postpartum on all of these medications. She ended up killing her 3 children and trying to kill herself, but she survived. So she's on trial right now. For anyone that's listening that's not familiar, I'm sure everyone that's listening is familiar, but you know, her and this is like a complete tragic case, but her husband, who is the father of those children that she was married to at the time, he has since gotten remarried. He's a couple years past his children being murdered by his wife, and he is going on trial right now and speaking in her defense. And like, to me, that says a lot to me about love and just doing something that is completely awful and terrible and hard to do and still doing it because you love a person.
Do you think it's the love that he has for her as a person, even though, because obviously they're separated and he's remarried? Or do you think it's the love that he has for his children?
I just think it's a combination of both, because I do believe, just from hearing their story, that they were happily married and they were in love, and he witnessed her go through 3 pregnancies, and he witnessed her essentially begging everyone for help because she felt mentally ill
Okay.
and she didn't get the help that she wanted or that she needed. And this is the result, because it's not just a loss for him, it's a loss for her too. It's a loss for them as a unit. I don't know what the circumstances are behind their divorce. I mean, obviously, you could see why that just had to happen. Um, but if you just think about it, I just think that the easier path for him would be to just, I mean, his kids are gone, so it doesn't matter what they think at this point. The easiest path for him would be to be with his new wife and be secluded and not re-expose himself to this trauma. And I feel like he's doing it to clear her name because he feels that passionately about it and has some kind of love for her still.
That's one heck of a strong individual to go ahead and do that, to be able to put aside the behaviors and just recognize the emotion and the love that he still has for the person that she is. not as an individual, but also as the mother of his children. That's unbelievable. I know if it was reversed and I was in his shoes, I don't know if I would be able to go ahead and do what he's doing.
Yeah. And I mean, him just being cross-examined over the past couple of days is just, it's very hard to watch it because you know what happened, you know what he's been through. The ex-wife is sitting across from him in the courtroom, and it's just the whole time I'm thinking he doesn't have to be here doing this right now.
Yeah. Now, I want to do a little bit of a rapid fire with you guys. True crime documentary or a fictional thriller, if you had to choose.
True crime.
Me too.
Do you guys have like a specialty? Because I know when I will turn on Netflix or Amazon Prime, I'll go to the true crime section because apparently there's a cheat code. Didn't know this until a couple of weeks ago that you could actually type in like a certain code. I don't remember what it is, but it will only bring you to true crime. So you don't have to go looking for. I'll send you the code when I have it at home, and it will just bring up everything that's tagged as true crime. So you don't have to go fishing through titles and looking for everything. Do you have like a specialty type of genre of true crime that you like watching?
I'm really open to anything, but as you know, we've talked about in private, I'm very fascinated by plane incidents and amusement park accidents. So I'm more not even on the true crime realm as far as murder. I'm very into like crime as far as accidental things that were caused by someone's negligence as far as the crime is related, if that makes sense.
Well, that actually, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the one that I don't usually, I'm not like a huge TV person, but Maria will say, you have to watch this. And then I'm like, okay, whatever. So she had me watch the Maternal Instinct one recently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one where the woman was telling everyone she was pregnant and she wasn't really pregnant. And here she went and essentially murdered her and took the baby and tried to pass it off as her own.
Yeah.
That was, I don't want to say I enjoyed it because it was awful.
Well done.
It's one of the worst crimes you could think of, but I like the unraveling of a true crime story that also involves, that's heavy on what would be seen at the autopsy. And also it's a medical autopsy is like, that's, where I find the most interest in cases like that.
What do you guys think is the best replicated medical drama out there for accuracy portrayals?
I'm not big on watching medical dramas, but from what I've heard is that The Pit is pretty accurate. I haven't seen it. And then just like otherwise from an entertainment perspective, I like shows like Nurse Jackie, things that are totally far-fetched and ridiculous.
I haven't watched a medical drama since the ER show.
Yeah. Good old Doug Ross.
I'll be certain. I could almost guarantee that show is nowhere near accurate, just because in one episode I think someone came into the ER and shot it up, and then at the same episode, one of the doctors got his arm cut off with a helicopter on the roof. So it just seems like a lot happening in one day.
We always joke that I watched all these shows at like way too young of an age, and that's one of them. I was just telling my uncle about it because he just rewatched ER all the way, and I said, I'm pretty sure my mom stopped letting me watch at the episode the guy got his arm cut off by the helicopter. And I remember we lived in our apartment in Philly.
Yeah.
And when it premiered, so it had to be 2002 or 2003.
Yeah, and you were in like second grade or something.
Yeah, I was in second grade.
So there were no parental controls on your TV.
Controls, who is she? We don't know.
Plead the fifth. What do you think is the most overrated topic that's discussed actually on TV and in these shows?
Well, I told you I'm writing this celebrity death book. And of course, there was a part of me that's like, I don't even want to put Marilyn Monroe in here. I'm just tired of it. Like, it's so overdone. It's
I
so,
was going to
oh
ask you
my
about that.
God. Yeah. And I did, just because I was like, I have to do this, because if I leave it out, it's like she's like one of the highest profile celebrity deaths. JFK, you could say the same thing. It's just like over and over and over again. So, I did touch on it, my personal opinion on it, because everybody thinks that she was murdered. I think that she was a prime candidate for suicide based on her entire medical history.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, just there's certain cases that you're just kind of like, can we just do another topic? There's hundreds of other celebrities who have really fascinating deaths, actually, like, that I come across. I mean, I did deep dives on over 60 celebrities, and then just talking about other ones as well. There's other things going on in the world besides Marilyn Monroe's death.
Yeah, and your book is certainly going to cover this with many celebrities, but we're also working on a secret project where we're kind of debunking a lot of these conspiracies as well. But that's to be announced soon.
Love this. I'm like beaming with pride and joy. No, because it's great having the information. And just because the information is out there doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% correct. Because at the same time, even in the medical field, you can go to whichever medical school it is, but whatever you're being taught is what you're being taught. And I'm learned from polygraph school is that just because you go to school one place doesn't mean you're necessarily taught the same thing where someone else is. So even techniques go ahead and change. So it's great to have other perspectives out there. But going back to the Marilyn Monroe thing, I'm not going down the rabbit hole. I promise. I'm definitely not asking questions about that. But her death has obviously been glorified given the fact of who she is. And I feel that at the time when a celebrity does pass away, until the next celebrity passes away, it's focused on that individual. And it's kind of just like racing to, I don't want to say racing, but it's always like trying to catch up to see who the next one's going to be. Because I remember growing up when it was like Anna Nicole Smith that passed away. Like that was a huge death, a huge impact, and everyone was fascinated with it. But until the next person died, that's kind of like what everyone really talked about.
Yeah, and it's like we were saying earlier, everyone wants to make something be a scandal. Even when Gene Hackman just died, it was like that was the whole thing. He was murdered, and then it came out the truth, and all of these do. It's just so hard for people to believe that. I mean, Anna Nicole Smith she was, everything was stacked up against her, and there's nothing unexpected about her death. These kinds of deaths happen every day in regular people that nobody even pays attention to or cares about. But yeah, this is like a common theme that you come across. And it happens a lot with the true crime cases too, in the true crime field. I mean, for example, in recent history, Nancy Guthrie, that was crazy when it happened, right? It was so crazy. For a couple days, you're like, what's happening? What's happening? The videos, this, that, and the other. Then the doorbell cam came out. But okay, nothing else has happened. Why are we still talking about it every single episode of every show? It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just like my ADD. I get bored really easily and I just want to move on to the next.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because you're right. The Nancy Guthrie case has absolutely been a roller coaster. The Ring doorbell cam happens and then no one's talking about anything else. Okay, another ransom note conveniently pops up and then another one after that. And I feel that it gets more fire pertaining to the investigation and pertaining to keeping the case out there every time something happens. So I think even with these fabricated ransom notes, it's just keeping the case out in the media. But who knows? I mean, I have my own personal opinions. I've openly commented it in the media, and I'm still waiting for a cease and desist from certain individuals because I've openly shot them and myself in the foot publicly. But that's one heck of a case, and I don't think we're ever going to get an answer.
Oh, yeah, and I'm just like for our particular show, and even for my website, I just want, like I like talking about things when they're relevant, but then I just want to move on because other, when you're spending all this news time, all of these people that are in the whole field of forensics that are on the news all the time and stuff, and these shows, when you're spending all that time talking about Nancy Guthrie and Savannah Guthrie, then like what about all the other people that have
Yeah.
stuff happening to them? They're just like, because that means that other people aren't getting coverage that deserve to get coverage too.
And the case is only getting coverage because who her daughter is.
Yeah.
If this was anybody else, I mean, we've all heard the case pertaining to Daniel Robinson.
Yeah.
If the fact that his father was looking to run for political office, to go ahead and be able to have a greater platform to advocate for his missing son, I mean, that tells about the father's strength and his passion and love for his son. But had that story and had his father, I guess, been substituted for Savannah, imagine that case information that would be out there and the platforms that he would have. So it really comes down to opportunity. And I hate the fact that it even comes down to who the family members are. It's horrible.
Yeah, it really is. And we come across stories sometimes and you're just like, I haven't even heard about this. This is terrible. And a lot of the stories that we cover aren't really going to necessarily help the family because maybe the crime's already been committed or whatever's already happened,
Mm-hmm.
but it might help other people because there's just we talked about a story on an episode we recorded this week about teenage children that were getting sexually assaulted by a nurse at the hospital after they came out of anesthesia from a surgery, right? And this particular story was that the nurse told the mom, "Hey, go to the garage, go get your car, pull it around front, and I'll bring your son downstairs."
Yeah.
Which every single person would be like, oh, "Of course." Like
I've done that for my own parents. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this nurse brings the son who just came out of anesthesia and had surgery into the bathroom and like was touching his genitals and trying to get him to watch porn. And like now come to find out he's done it multiple times. So, and this is at Boston Children's Hospital, a huge hospital where people bring their children. So like this is awareness that I was even saying, one of my children have a medical issue. And when I bring her to the doctor, they say, okay, we're going to bring her to get an x-ray. We'll bring her right back. And now you're kind of like questioning, like, should I let anybody have her out of my eyes because of stuff like this? You don't even think it'll happen. So we like to bring awareness to current things that are happening that could affect everyone.
If you weren't doing what you were, if you hadn't spent half of your career doing what you were doing, is there another career that you would consider now?
As far as like in the medical field, I really like epidemiology. That was always a big thing that I liked. I feel like I probably would have actually went for it, but I was a teen mom and I had a kid, so I wouldn't be able to just hop on a plane all the time and go, chase Ebola virus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to just be in a lab. I wanted to be like on the field investigating and trying to figure out where these things were coming from. So, so my career now obviously was a really good backup to that. And it turned out to be better. But I also really enjoy gardening. Like I always think that maybe once my kids get older and move out that I'll do something with that, get more of a formal education for it because I enjoy it so much. But I would really like to learn the science aspect of it rather than doing it backwards and just doing it by observation.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I'm into.
Now,
Ray, what about you?
Yeah.
For me, I would say I mentioned this earlier. Genetic genealogy. It was something not aware of existed until the Golden State Killer case kind of came out with everything about how they caught him. And that case is, I always say, it's one of my top cases. Like everybody has a case that's close to their heart and like what got them very interested in the field. And for me, it's Jodi Arias going back to 2013. I was watching the trial every single day while you were pregnant with Lillian. And then Golden State Killer for me, just because I was so blown away by how they were able to catch this guy 50 years after he committed all these heinous crimes. So for me, it really opened the door to knowing about genetic genealogy, and everything I hear about it, I think is the coolest thing in the world. So I guess it's like one of those timing things. I could still totally go back to school and do it, but
shout out to
I can't
Othram.
imagine it. Yeah, shout out to Othram. Shout out to Small Town Dicks for their awesome Golden State Killer series they're doing right now with Paul Holes. It's an amazing listen.
Yeah, Paul's been doing an incredible job kind of breaking down his activity in the case. I actually texted him this morning and I said, any chance I can borrow you for an hour? I haven't checked my phone. So I'm kind of hoping when we're done recording, I get like an early Christmas present of a text message of, yeah, I'm in. But his schedule is crazier than most people's these days. And the last rapid fire question for you, Maria, Airbus or Boeing?
You know the answer to this.
Yes,
Airbus
but I will
all the way.
It's funny because every time I get on a plane, like I text you or I'm like, we're talking about flight apps, or like I'm on the plane, I'm in this seat, like, what do I do? And then I get on a Boeing and I'm like, ugh, this is disgusting.
I won't even book it if it's on a Boeing unless it's like I absolutely have to. I can't leave that day on another aircraft, or somebody else is booking the flight for me. It gives me major anxiety. And obviously Airbus has incidents as well.
Yeah.
But just as of late, Boeing is having not a great PR situation going on. People getting sucked out the windows, doors flying off. I'm not really loving it.
Wait, did you hear? So the guy that just got sucked out of the Boeing a couple weeks ago. So
halfway through the window, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's in a news story this week that they were offering him like a discount to rebook his
a discount. They just asked him if he wanted to rebook the flight.
Okay. But so it's like this guy is sitting there and you just like you could see that he has these huge abrasions on his arm, like he clearly was sucked out of a window of an airplane, and I'm just like, oh my God, this poor guy.
I agree. I mean, I've now become a flight snob because you guys know I'm rarely on the ground in one place for too long. But I'll go as so far to take a look at the flight schedule, open up the seat map, see what type of plane it is. If it's a Boeing, by mercy, I pray that I do not have to get onto that flight or they don't change the aircraft. Like, I will deliberately go out of my way not to do it because
she does too.
Yes.
I'm not judging. This is a safe space for airline bookings, just not Boeing.
I think you actually, we've talked about this at great length, and I think you've actually designed an amazing T-shirt about the Airbus Alliance.
I forgot about the T-shirt.
We're going to have to make some combo merch for next year's Crime Con.
Oh, yes. Airbus Alliance. I think I even came down to like the logo and everything else. I'll have to put it up. You know, I might even put it into my merch store and then I'll tag you guys also.
You have to. You have to.
Because 100% the Airbus Alliance. Now, to kind of wrap things up, what is the legacy that you guys hope that Mother Knows Death will leave behind? Because at some point, we all get burnt out from podcasting. We all have a life and the good old retire word. So what is the legacy that you're both hoping to leave behind with the work that you've put towards your podcast?
Really hoping that people listen because they enjoy listening to us have conversations, which is something I can't get over because who wants to listen to us talk and
I do
yell at each other. But also that, you know, we really try to lay information out in a way that everybody can understand it. When you listen to a lot of these shows with experts, they're talking completely in the language of their own field, and it's impossible as a lay person to understand what's going on.
Yes.
And I really hope having the balance of having a layperson, having an expert such as my mom, that we can kind of break that down so that the everyday person can listen and understand exactly what we're talking about and leave the show being like, wow, I learned something today. And those women are so beautiful and comedic geniuses.
Well, you are.
You're so ridiculous.
I'm ridiculous. No, but really, I really hope people listen and they feel like they learned something from every episode. Because that's why we're doing it. You know, we're having conversations about a lot of topics people aren't willing to cover, and some things need to be said that people are just not willing to go over. And if they've ever met my mom, they know she has no problem speaking her mind.
Yes.
Well, it's true. I mean, we just want people to know, be up to date on what's going on in the world, because we are really in, elbows deep in the news every week. We know what's going on. I mean, once in a while, somebody will say, did you hear about this? And I say no, but our friends are always sending us articles and we're like, we already have it on the list. We already have it on the list. Like, we're on it. But we know that like regular people who are just going to work every day and stuff might not know a lot of the stuff that's going on. And it could be important for your health or just anything, just pure knowledge, or you might be able to help somebody else out with the information.
And the last question I have for both of you: if death has taught you one universal truth about how people should live their life, what do you think that would be?
Death is inevitable, and I think people have a hard time understanding that. And it's about living your life, not being scared of it, and just trying to enjoy the time you have.
I personally think that with all of the experience I've had with autopsy, and especially people that I've seen who have died young, and when I say young, I mean under 70 years old, sometimes between 50 and 70 years old, because I think that that's an age that you shouldn't die at unless you have some kind of chronic disease or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've had so many autopsies, especially on women, actually between the ages of 50 and 70 years old, and it all boils down to moderation, right? You see it with people who with obesity, drug use, alcohol use. If you just do all of those things in moderation, like I personally don't drink alcohol, but I don't tell people not to.
Mhm.
Just moderation, anything. You want to do weed, moderation. Like, you just can't do, I mean, I don't know if you could like smoke crack in moderation, but like with with the exception of that.
Some
but
people do.
Yeah, just
Think
like
about that guy that got stuck in the porta potty.
it's just like it's the same with eating and stuff. Like I mean, just everything has to be in moderation. And if you just live your life like that, you should be really safe as far as from dying from natural disease, at least.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being here and for finding time in your crazy schedules to have this conversation. And part of our conversation was tough, and part of our conversation was definitely a little bit more laid back. But again, I thank you both so much for being here. For our listeners, please follow them, subscribe, click every single button possible, hit their merch store. At Mother Knows Death. You guys are going to be tagged in this episode as well, so that way everyone will be able to find you directly. But again, thank you, and thank you for being here. And for our listeners, until next time, please make sure you trust your instincts, question the stories that you hear, and remember, in the world of liars and lovers, the truth will always leave a clue.